Welcome everyone to our discussion on wellness in the home. What parts of the home can contribute to wellness, and making a healthy home? Lighting, air quality, et cetera. We're touching on them, but what's important? What should homeowners, what should builders, architects, what should we be focusing on?
When we started our focus here, we sort of narrowed down what does wellness actually mean, right? And there's three aspects of wellness, potentially more, but the three we narrowed it down to are social, physical, and mental well-being, right? And we created this kind of funny chart that went from okay, if we want to focus on the bathroom, what could we do? And we tracked it back to, or any aspect of the house, right? Any piece of the living environment. We tracked it back to all three. If it went to just one, we wouldn't pursue it, but it had to affect all three aspects of well-being. That was just a really interesting thing. If we focus on the kitchen as an example, let's say we want to create indoor growing environment, right, where you can create your own food. You create sort of this mental, there's the fulfillment aspect of it, that you're growing your own food. There's the mental, psychological safety aspect of it, of which, the reality of growing your own food isn't you couldn't possibly grow enough yet with the technology, but if you did, you can sustain yourself. There's psychological safety there. And then there's social aspects of it. You're choosing what to grow with your family. You're choosing what to eat. You pick it, then you grow it, right? And this is indoor. You can do this with a garden, of course, but it's a really important piece, right? Why are we not focused more on that? Why are we not focused more on being able to grow food all winter right in our home environment? If it adds such a great, if it affects all three aspects of wellness. And you can do that with any space, right? Your bathing environment, your sleeping environment, your any sort of part of the home. And we think that's important. So that's how we've narrowed it down. And that's not, it's kind of a broad approach, but we want to make sure we focus our energy on areas that affect all aspects of wellness, not just one.
Tom, I love hearing from your architect's perspective, because you actually have to look at everything holistically as a system.
Yeah.
And the one thing I always like to talk about too is every design decision that goes into a space, it's either going to contribute to your health or detract from it. Right. So I really like the fact that you look at it through that lens. What is this decision? How is it impacting the people in the home? Right. So that's really important. When it comes to healthy home, I believe it has to be holistic. It can't just be one-dimensional. It has to, because, for example, if we go to the grocery store, we now know from all the studies, 75% roughly is processed food. It's not real food. Right. So when we bring it into our body, it's not acting the way that it should to nourish our cells, keep us healthy, and balance our immune system, right? The latest stat from the WHO is that 0.01% of the world's population is breathing air that is above the standard that it should be. That's 1 in 1,000 people, right? It's not as bad in the US, but it's still bad. It's still bad. So in much a similar vein, people are kind of health-conscious families are really focused on what they're feeding their families now, right?
And that goes into what Thomas was saying. We've done a lot of growing of our own food, and it is challenging, right? You have New England winters, number one, and I keep looking at these indoor gardens, but they just don't do enough. We have some, but they just don't do enough. But
I will say another thing that I've seen, and I think it has to do with social media and the whole sort of influencer culture, is that a lot of the decisions that are being driven by people who are imagining themselves in a new home are very visual, right? It's an easy thing to do. We're going through ourselves a home renovation, and it's quite easy to go through Instagram, social media, Pinterest, and sort of compile visually. But I think if you focus too much on that, right? If you're focusing just on what it looks like versus how it performs, and there's great examples like the bathroom, right? If you're somebody that likes to relax in the bath, Well, that recessed light that's right above that bath that is shining straight into your eyes as you're looking up is very distracting and doesn't contribute to your mental health. But you think about all the decisions that need to be made, like how did that light end up there to begin with? It's probably a lack of decision making. It's probably like, okay, well, electrician says we need light in the room. I've got this, it's a good cost fixture. You know, GC signs off on it, doesn't cost a lot, fits within the budget, just lay it out there, right? So there's an intention of design that has to come along with being intentional about wellness. I mean, just as it is about the food that you eat, just going to the gym and what do you do and all this kind of stuff. And I think a lot of the times, you know, we don't have a lot of attention, we don't have a lot of time. So you're gonna just put that kind of attention aside, somebody else makes that decision for you. So I think some of it is understanding, like you've said, all of these things are happening regardless if we make these decisions. Our inaction or indecision ends up with poor air quality, ends up with these things. We kind of need to decide very consciously, hey, we are going to participate in a design process where all of these decisions, we're intentionally making it towards the idea of being productive to our health rather than negative to it.
Yeah, it seems the whole integration community needs to focus on this a lot more. And one of the things I do appreciate about TSP is the thought process in your designs. And just as simple as what you had just said, it's making the home a better place to live, which in turn is a better place for your health, you know, going on. So.